From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 530 News.
You see the letters of their mother saying, "Where's my son?" Like, it's those kind of things that you're just like, oh my God.
Tonight, we remember a Billings World War II veteran who, after nearly 80 years of missing in action, will finally be laid to rest. And priority dispatching, a new move for the city of Billings, simply put, working smarter, not harder. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us midweek. I'm Jeanelle Slade. Well, it's not always necessary to dispatch $1 million fire truck to a medical call, but that's the way it works here in Billings until this week. The new goal is to match the right resources with the needed response, and you will play a part.
And tell me when the paramedics are right with them. Is the door unlocked?
Most people that call 911 aren't having the best day. They're panicked, they're in a hurry, asking a few very quick, very pointed, direct questions about what's happening, what's going on, and how it happened.
Those questions and the answers on the other end of that 911 call are now more important than ever. They will help determine who shows up to help.
Every day in here we encounter situations where we don't have enough fire trucks for fires, we don't have enough ambulances for medical situations.
To help ease the wait times and backlog, instead of sending both a fire and ambulance crew to every medical call, the city is now moving to priority medical dispatch, a new system to help gauge the difference between emergencies needing basic or advanced life support.
Where a fire truck and an ambulance used to show up, it may just be an ambulance now, but that also leaves that fire truck for its intended purpose of fires, rescues, hazardous materials.
And even though our name says fire department, we are an all hazards agency.
Billings Fire Department engineer and paramedic Cameron McCamley says this is a good step in the right direction.
While this is going to not be going to every call, it's going to be more available for the calls where it's truly needed.
And as for your part,
try and take a deep breath. Please answer our questions, please cooperate with the caller, and please know that as you're doing that, things are happening in the background in a way that you can't see.
To match the right resources with the needed response.
City County Dispatch, is this an emergency?
And I'm told by both dispatchers and the fire department, if there is a concern, the city will always err on the side of caution and send both fire paramedics and AMR. Chief Meteorologist Ed McIntosh joining us now, and hold on to your hats because it's a blowing out there.
That's right. Our own Mitch Laggy caught some video of the wind blowing around. Even in the Billings area, some of those wind gusts were topping 40 miles an hour. Closer into the mountain foothills, we saw some of those gusts topping 50 miles an hour. And we're not quite done yet, as a lot of the wind will linger, especially in the eastern plains during the evening hours. Here, check it out by first thing tomorrow morning. We're still looking at wind gusts 30, 40 miles an hour across eastern Montana. And some of that wind returns back around the Billings area, and notably, it doesn't really move into areas closer to the mountain foothills, but some of those gusts into the Dakotas could be hitting 50 to 60 miles per hour. The rest of the forecast details coming up in just a few minutes.
Thousands will gather at cemeteries across the country tomorrow to honor the American service members who have died in combat. Almost 300,000 of them died 80 years ago during World War II, including Billings native Jack Earl Hill. But for the first time, family members tomorrow will be able to honor Hill in person.
When you bring their bones back in, like we found you, we've got you, you're on your way home, right, to your family, is like the most incredible thing.
Jordan Wimbush is an osteoarchaeologist for History Flight, a group dedicated to reuniting KIA service members with their loved ones. It's a rewarding, never-ending job.
How many men and women are actually missing in action, and it's over 81,000 like still today.
In November 1943, over 1,000 Marines were killed in the Battle of Tarawa on a small island about halfway between Hawaii and Australia. 21-year-old Private First Class Jack Earl Hill was one of them. Surviving Marines buried the dead in shallow graves, hoping they would be discovered shortly after the war and sent home to their grieving families. Approximately 33 of them, including Hill, were buried in a trench referred to as Row D. It wouldn't be found until March 2019.
There's 41 American cemeteries on this 1 square mile of land. The Row D group that we were looking for was actually buried under a house that had a concrete foundation. So that concrete slab protected these men, but it also inhibited us from finding them for so many years.
Wimbush's job had just begun. Her specialty is using the bones for identification. Finally, on June 26, 2020, DNA samples from one of Hill's cousins confirmed a match, putting an end to decades of uncertainty.
You hear the stories of the family members that are just like, thank you so much for bringing my brother home. Those are the ones that you're like, whew, like, you're very welcome. It's our honor to do it.
Jack Earl Hill, the son of Earl and Nellie, and a former Custer High football star, will be laid to rest tomorrow in Seattle, Washington, in front of family. Casey Conlon, MTN News.
We commemorate Veterans Day tomorrow, and here at Q2, we'd like to recognize those who have and continue to serve our nation. So we'd like to invite you to post a picture of a veteran in your life on the Q2 Facebook page and briefly describe their service. We will share some of your photos during our newscast starting tomorrow on Montana This Morning. Thank you to all of our veterans.
Since the announcement of a brand new music outdoor venue here in the Eber district of Billings, there's been a lot of questions about parking. Well, this new pavilion is going to hold a capacity of 3,000 people. So the big question is, where's everybody going to park?
Sean Lynch with the Pop Station and the new pavilion showed us around the new site on North 17th Street. The pavilion will be a city block long by a half a city block wide. The district was created back in 2006 as a tax increment financing district. Tax dollars are collected from property owners within. But the pavilion will be a private business paid for by itself, just like the Pub Station, bringing in music acts that otherwise might pass up Billings because there was never a suitable venue. Piece by piece, the idea is to revitalize this area, and Lynch says a new pavilion will help do just that.
I believe it will be a catalyst for the eBird. There's been talk about when the downtown and things on the metro side would meet. We're kind of starting in the middle, and maybe they'll grow outwards, so there's a spot to meet in the middle.
And Lynch says in addition to free parking in the district, there's also the idea of this, a shuttle system to get people down here for acts, minus their cars. All of this hopefully happening in late summer of 2022 when they hope to book their first act. In Billings, Andrea Lutz, MTN News.
This past weekend, the Drummond football team was heading to Fairview for their Class C football game. On their way, they passed through Billings, but their stay in the Magic City offered a cruel twist. It could have put a damper on the entire weekend, but some good Samaritans would not let that happen. Alina Howder has the story.
During their stay in Billings, the Drummond High School's football team's trailer got broken into. They came to Shields looking for a miracle and hoping to replace their stolen equipment. They left without paying a cent because of an act of kindness.
I don't know who would benefit from stinky high school football player gear, but somebody was interested in that.
Drummond High School's football team set off on a 600-mile trip across the state to Fairview last Thursday for a Class C playoff game, an adventure that became even more adventurous during an overnight stop at the Spring Hill Suites here in Billings.
So Saturday morning, of course, I went out and checked everything over. That's when I found that the trailer was broken into, the lock had been cut.
Dean Phillips, the school's superintendent, was shuttling the team's equipment, and he was the first to learn that 3 duffel bags filled with equipment, cleats, gloves, helmets, were gone.
Those kids wouldn't get to participate in the game on Saturday.
But the Magic City made magic happen. Phillips made one quick call to Shields explaining what had happened.
Initially, they said that it would maybe be a cost share, which I was completely fine with.
Which is why he was so surprised by what happened when he showed up at the store.
I ended up donating all of that, even to the point where 3 kids were missing shoes. They sent 6 pairs of shoes to make sure everybody had a pair of shoes that fit.
And the acts of kindness didn't stop there.
During checkout, I was just kind of standing there waiting for everything to kind of happen, and a gentleman came up to me with a gift card, and he said, hey, you know, I just overheard the story. Here's a gift card that you could put towards the cause.
That gift card was worth $100, but the act itself, priceless. Residents of Montana's largest city pitching in to help a small town football team.
Just a great community.
As for the Drummond Titans, the team beat Fairview, which means its adventures aren't over yet. They can only hope their next road trip to Fort Benton is less eventful. In Billings, Alina Howder, MTN News.
Still to come on your MTN 530 News here on Q2, a reportedly toxic work environment and overworked guards at Montana State Prison sends a warning of dangerous consequences.